It's Pancake Day week. It's the week of Pancake Day, which is why I've got this lens, which is a pancake lens. But let me tell you this, we always talk about 50mm lenses versus 35mm lenses. Which one is the best focal length? Neither, because the best focal length is actually the 40mm lens. And I'm going to tell you why. Oh, you know, tasteful merch. So Tim's not had any lunch. He's freezing. He's cold. Check him out.
Any lunch?
We should be having pancakes, Tim.
Fuck pancake. I need meat.
I don't want to fuck a pancake. That would end up a bit messy. Let's go home. Let's go to Chinatown.
Oh yeah.
One thing is that it's around Chinese New Year, Year of the Dog.
Yeah.
Woof,
Last
woof.
year was the year of the rooster.
Yeah, that was my year.
Oh really?
Yeah, the year of the cock. So get your cocks out for the year of the cock. Okay. Wow, shit, there's a lot of people here. There's a guy holding his umbrella up. Either he's forgotten how to use an umbrella or that's one seriously silly novelty selfie stick. Whatevs, this is all about why the 40mm is actually the perfect focal length. Actually.
The light is so good.
Light is great. The thing is with 50mm lenses, sorry my lips are freezing out. With the 50mm focal length, I like it a lot because it's nice, clean and tidy. It doesn't include too much in your frame. Because with a 50mm focal length, everything does look nice. Proportions of everything in the frame look great. That's why they call it the standard lens. It's like exactly as your eyes would see. But it ends up being kind of like a portrait lens because of it. And in situations like this, it's almost a bit too tight. When you're talking about cinematography, what is the most widely used focal length? I think you'll find it's 28mm, right? 28mm, Super 35.
Equivalent to 50.
Equivalent to 40, actually.
Yeah, 40. Yeah.
So what you're watching in the films is pretty much this focal length. 50s are defined as standard lenses, but to be a pedantic bar steward, technically they shouldn't be. If you're taking diagonal of the sensor, the full frame sensor, it's about 42mm. 43.2mm as a matter of fact, meaning 40mm lenses have a better claim as a standard lens than the 50mm. That's a shit dab though. And in terms of proper geekiness, Pentax are the ultimate geeks. They have I think it's something like a 43mm focal length. I mean, if we're talking about pedanticness, Pedantax. You can tell this is Chinatown because you can't smell it. Luckily you've only got visuals and audio, but it stinks. It is like, whoo, Christ. If I don't wash down there for a week and just rub some shellfish all over there, that's what it'll smell like. Well, let's get a slow exposure for this one. I want to get people moving. I shot this with slow shutter speed to exaggerate the movement and the people walking by, to contrast the stillness of that still bloke on the bike or whatever you call this act. That's the thing, you could actually put just a statue here and just say it's a real person there. And the people are like, wow, he's standing really still.
Yeah, let's put money.
Yeah. Tuck elbows in, keep still for the shot. The size and lightweight of this lens helps because it keeps all the weight towards the camera and thus in your palms, making it easier to keep the camera still. This is a nice size. I mean, in terms of ergonomics, it's brilliant. Light and weight. If we're talking about versatility, this is it. It feels as good for wider shots as it does for portraits. You know, when I always talked about 50mm being the perfect street lens, I lied. It's almost a bit too long for that. That's what she said, right, Tim? It's essentially a 15mm with more room on all of the sides. It's a 15mm for tight spaces.
I mean, who buys dildos?
Who buys dildos?
Who buys dildos like in the shop? You buy it from the internet.
Can you go in and say, can I try it on for size first? I'd like to try this condom size on first to see if it fits.
Yeah.
It doesn't fit, sorry, I'd like to get my money back, please. Back on point. There are times when I've found that the 15mm doesn't allow me to shoot many different angles on the street because there isn't enough space for me to get that shot. A lot of the 40mm lenses you get, Nikon, Canon, Pentax. Pentax is f1.9, but most of the 40mm lenses are f2.8, which is not exactly quick. But you don't really need that for things like street. You don't need lots of bokeh. Although bokeh is the way forward. The bokeh.
The boke.
The bokeh.
为什么这边所有的商店都是这种？
Tim was asking why all the shops here like that. If you're like, okay, I want to buy a crotchless underwear, you don't want to be like going here and then going across town. You're just like, okay, I like the price. Nah, cheaper down the road. Just like Savile Row is just a row of shops for fine tailoring. This is kind of like a Savile Row for leather hats and butt plugs.
Well, your videos are super.
Thank you very much. Wow, Sony crew here.
Yeah, we're both A6000.
You brought them together.
Yeah, well, yeah, he's had it for a while now. That video that you made, we were like, we have to sort of go mirrorless now from DSLR. So.
Go back to mirrors. Oh, just messing. Having said that, I'm enjoying shooting with this setup again. My camera and lens of choice at one point was the 5D Mark III and 14mm before I sold it all.
And someone called me Lock again. Seriously.
My baby calls you Lock. My baby looked at your photos like, Lock? Who's that?
Look.
35mm, just that bit wider. When you're photographing your subject, it includes quite a bit more of the background. Sometimes it sucks in too much detail in the background. In terms of popularity, as a single lens, the 35 is probably more popular than the 50. If you want to get a wider view of the scenery, a 35 is plenty wide for that. So yes, the 14mm focal length, fantastic. 35 is probably ideal for travelling. When you're travelling and seeing new sights, you want the bigger picture. With a 50, to be honest, the images can be shot anywhere because it doesn't show much of your environment. When trying to capture the subject as roughly the same size in the frame as each other, you can see the 50 offers a narrow field of view. You don't see as much in the background as a 35. Lots of detail. Context. When I first started shooting with 35mm lenses way back, I didn't like them because it meant having to compose shots with more mess in the background. For me, the 40 works because it is a happy middle ground. If you want a special lens, then the 40mm is not it, and that's precisely why it's a good lens. It's neither wide like the 35 and it's not long like a 15mm. There's no need to and ah about whether this lens is a bit too wide or a bit too long. No, it's neither. And that's the great thing about 40mm. If you want a lens that is great for street photography, doesn't stick out too much, the 50 is compact, 35 is also kind of compact, unless you get the fast one. A fast 35 is kind of big and chunky. You can't get any more compact than this, can you? Last reason, well, they're quite affordable. Dead cheap.
Buy it.
Buy now. Yeah, it's about that. It's about 170 quid.
Yeah.
Even cheaper if you're not living in the UK. Rip off Britain. Can I take a picture of your dog?
Yeah.
The 40mm focal length doesn't get much love because it is somewhat of an oddity. It doesn't serve as obvious a purpose as the 35 or 50, but those have been my 5 reasons you might enjoy one too. And one last thing, happy Doggy Lunar New Year! So I'm getting loved up with Canon this week. Oh, sexy time. Oh, we just stopped off at Mackie D's because Tim got a little present from a flying friend. It was a bit. You should have some pigeon tonight. Yeah. Have some roast pigeon. Yeah. I think that's why Chinese people have roast pigeon, because like fucking pigeons.
You fucking shit.
You shit on me, I eat your face off. Angry birds. Angry shitting birds.